February 5, 2024, News Report 1. According to Bloomberg, regulatory agencies including the China Securities Regulatory Commission will report to Xi Jinping on the stock market situation and the latest market response measures. Following this news, the Chinese stock market saw a significant rise. The Shanghai Composite Index closed at 2,789 points, up 87 points, with a turnover of 441.2 billion yuan. The Shenzhen Component Index closed at 8,464 points, up 495 points, with a turnover of 485.1 billion yuan. And the CSI 300 Index closed at 3,311 points, up 111 points. Bloomberg noted that over the past 2 months, the China Banking and Insurance Regulatory Commission has convened multiple meetings to discuss measures to stabilize the market, and various financial regulatory agencies have also introduced corresponding measures. However, the Chinese stock market has continued to decline in recent times, with both the Chinese and Hong Kong stock markets evaporating $7 trillion since their peak in 2021. Bloomberg reported that China has mobilized $2 trillion in overseas funds to stabilize the market, and Xi Jinping has once again heard a report on the stock market. In addition, the China Securities Regulatory Commission announced the suspension of the increase in the scale of new margin financing and securities lending, and the gradual settlement of outstanding balances to terminate short-selling activities. At the same time, Central Huijin Investment Limited announced the expansion of the range of ETF holdings. The China Securities Regulatory Commission announced that the investment amount would account for 2.5%. Furthermore, the China Securities Regulatory Commission recently held a symposium for listed companies, requiring them to repurchase shares, increase holdings by major shareholders, and normalize dividend payouts to enhance investment value. However, Bloomberg pointed out that these measures cannot solve the problem of China's economic downturn and the lack of confidence among investors. The arbitrary actions of the China Securities Regulatory Commission have made it difficult for the stock market to recover, leaving investors feeling unable to return. For Chinese investors, although China's market rescue measures provide some exit opportunities, they also increase uncertainty. News Report 2. Deputy Secretary of Defense Hicks of the United States stated at the headquarters of the Northern Command of the United States on February 5 that the threat posed by China to the United States mainland is increasing. Hicks mentioned the February 2023 incident of Chinese spy balloons, stating that the U.S. military successfully shot down one such balloon. This was the first time since World War II that a Chinese spy balloon was discovered over North America, and dynamic engagement was carried out. He described the incident as dynamic engagement with foreign objects. Hicks also listed other factors threatening the U.S. mainland, including Russia's military aviation capabilities, North Korea's intercontinental ballistic missiles, and the actions of Russia and China at sea. The United States Northern Command was established after the September 11, 2001 attacks with the responsibility of protecting North America from foreign threats. Additionally, the Taiwan Mainland Affairs Council released information regarding the United States on February 6. News Report 3. The Taiwan Mainland Affairs Council released the Mainland China Situation Report for the fourth quarter of 2023 on February 6. The report pointed out that although President Xi Jinping denied the existence of plans to attack Taiwan in 2027 or 2035 during his meeting with U.S. President Biden in San Francisco in 2023, the PLA continues to prepare for such an attack. The PLA continues to send aircraft and warships to conduct coercive exercises around the Taiwan Strait, release balloons to enhance cognitive operations, and continue to threaten and oppress Taiwan, squeezing Taiwan's defense space. The PLA is also expanding its nuclear arsenal, focusing on the development of medium and long-range precision strike capabilities, actively promoting joint operations, anti-access, and area denial capabilities, and conducting combat capability tests at home and abroad. In addition, China has taken action against the Democratic Progressive Party presidential candidate Lai Ching-te during the Taiwan election, including operating trade barriers and conducting investigations into agricultural and fisheries product imports, intensifying its intervention in Taiwan's elections. After Lai Ching-te was elected, the Chinese diplomatic system also attracted some of Taiwan's diplomatic allies and actively consolidated the international One China framework. News Report 4. According to the Iranian news agency, Iranian Navy Commander Irani announced on February 5 that Iran, China, and Russia will hold joint naval exercises in March. Irani stated that the purpose of this exercise is to ensure regional security and strengthen the coordinated actions of the three countries' navies. He emphasized that Iran's exercise with China aims to safeguard the interests and economic resources of the Far East to the Middle East region. This exercise will be a continuation of a series of joint naval exercises from 2019 to 2022 and 2023. However, U.S. National Security Council spokesperson Kobe stated that the United States will observe and monitor the situation of this trilateral exercise. Kobe also stated that these exercises do not pose a threat to U.S. national security interests. Considering the recent attacks by Houthi armed groups on U.S. bases and attacks on Red Sea merchant ships, the situation is more complex than in 2023. News Report 5. Israeli Defense Minister Gallant stated at a press conference on February 5 that the Israeli army has eliminated half of the Hamas militants. It is reported that Hamas has 24 battalions, of which 18 have been destroyed. Hamas leader Sinwar is reportedly moving from one hideout to another and is no longer leading military operations. On the other hand, Houthi armed group spokesperson Saria announced on February 6 that the Houthi armed group launched missiles at the American cargo ship Nasha Star and the British cargo ship City Nest sailing in the Red Sea. The UK Maritime Trade Operations Office stated that a British cargo ship was damaged when sailing outside the ports of Yemen and Taiz on February 6, with damage to the cockpit glass. In addition, US and UK warplanes launched 3 airstrikes on the northern Yemeni city of Sada'a on the early morning of February 6, which is a stronghold of the Houthi armed group. The U.S. military also conducted airstrikes on facilities in Sada'a and Taiz on February 4 and 5. News Report 6. The U.S. State Department announced on February 5 that it would impose visa restrictions on individuals involved in the abuse of commercial spyware. U.S. Secretary of State Blinken stated in a declaration that the misuse of commercial spyware threatens freedom of speech, peaceful assembly, and association, and is associated with arbitrary detention, enforced disappearance, and extrajudicial execution. According to a global media investigation, the spyware Pegasus has affected more than 1,000 people in 50 countries, including 85 human rights activists, 189 journalists, over 600 politicians and government officials, as well as some heads of state and prime ministers. A report by Amnesty International pointed out that after Washington Post columnist Jamal Khashoggi was killed, his fiancée's phone was also compromised by the Pegasus spyware. The U.S. government announced in November 2021 that it would prohibit U.S. companies from providing technical support to the Israeli NSO group to sanction the development of illegal commercial spyware. According to U.S. law, visa records are confidential, so the U.S. State Department will not publicly disclose the list of individuals affected by this policy. News Report 7. According to the Straits Times, the Singapore Ministry of Home Affairs has, for the first time, identified businessman Chen Wenping as a person with significant political influence under the Foreign Interference, Preventive Orders, Act. Under the law, Chen Wenping is required to disclose political donations of more than $10,000 to the Singapore government and publicly declare his relationships abroad and any benefits received from foreign countries, such as holding foreign passports, permanent residency, or work permits. The Ministry of Home Affairs stated that Chen Wenping is susceptible to foreign influence and willing to assist foreign forces in gaining political advantages. While the Ministry of Home Affairs did not specify which country's influence affects Chen Wenping, it is widely believed to be China. Chen Wenping, currently 59 years old, is a Hong Kong businessman based in Singapore who has served as an executive in several real estate companies. He is active in both political and business circles in Singapore and the Hong Kong immigrant community. In March last year, Chen Wenping attended the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference as the chairman of the overseas delegates. Additionally, during the 2019 Hong Kong extradition bill protests, Chen Wenping lent his bar for an unauthorized public gathering by pro-establishment Hong Kong internet celebrity Yang Guanghua, violating Singapore's Public Order Act and receiving a stern warning from the Singapore government. As for Singapore Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong, it is reported that he will step down in November 2024 and transfer power to Deputy Prime Minister Heng Swee Keat. Some observers believe that the Singapore government has begun to adopt a tougher stance against China's influence. However, there are still different opinions on Lee Hsien Loong's pro-China position. News Report 8. Bloomberg reported that Ken Penginski, the global president of McDonald's, stated on February 6 that the company plans to open 1,000 new stores in China this year to expand its business in second-tier cities in China. McDonald's aims to open 10,000 restaurants in China by the end of 2028. Currently, McDonald's has opened 5,903 stores in China, including 925 new ones opened last year. In the past year, McDonald's global same-store sales increased by 9%, with the Chinese market growing the fastest. Penginski also pointed out that sales in the Chinese market are increasingly reliant on promotional activities. McDonald's will take necessary measures to maintain its competitiveness in the Chinese market. Bloomberg analysis suggests that due to the slower-than-expected development of the Chinese economy and subdued consumer activity, especially in second- and third-tier cities, last year, 60% of the new KFC restaurants in China were located in second- and third-tier cities from January to September. News Report 9. According to the 21st Century Business Herald, Huawei has internally issued document number 1 on the annual dividend scheme for last year, 2023. According to the scheme, the dividend per share for employees last year was 1.5 yuan, equivalent to 15.3% of the after-tax profit. Considering that Huawei has issued 51.3 billion employee shares, the total dividend amount reached 77.1 billion yuan. According to the 2022 financial report, Huawei has 142,000 employee shareholders, including both current and retired employees, meaning that 140,000 people will benefit from this dividend. However, the average dividend amount may not be very meaningful. According to publicly available information, Huawei's dividends have declined linearly over the past 4 years, from 2.112 yuan in 2019 to 1.5 yuan last year. This indicates that Huawei may face certain financial pressure in the future. Additionally, the Financial Times reported that SMIC plans to set up a new chip production line in Shanghai to produce 5-nanometer Kirin chips for Huawei using existing equipment. Previously, Huawei's Kirin chips were produced by TSMC, but since the U.S. imposed sanctions on Huawei in September 2020, TSMC has stopped contract manufacturing for Kirin chips. Therefore, Huawei must now rely on its own production line rather than relying on inventory chips. News Report 10. According to Voice of America, U.S. Assistant Secretary of State Kanda met with 4 Hong Kong democracy activists who are wanted by the Hong Kong police on February 5. These 4 activists are Chow Hang-tung, the executive director of the Hong Kong Alliance, Ventus Lau, the convener of the Provisional Legislative Council, Isabel Lam, the commissioner of the Hong Kong Free Committee Foundation, and Sean Law, an employee of the International Democratic Association of the United States. They expressed hope that the U.S. would investigate cross-border repression and impose sanctions on officials promoting Article 23 legislation of the Basic Law of Hong Kong. Kanda tweeted that he was honored to meet these Hong Kong democracy activists, who were treated unfairly for exercising basic freedoms. Conda demanded the Hong Kong government to immediately release the Hong Kong democracy activists and stop suppressing Hong Kong citizens' exercise of basic freedoms. On the other hand, the Hong Kong High Court announced on February 6 that former Legislative Council member Ted Hui had been declared bankrupt. Ted Hui is also wanted by the Hong Kong government. Ted Hui currently resides in Australia. The Hong Kong Department of Justice has filed lawsuits against Ted Hui 4 times and imposed fines on him. However, Ted Hui has not paid the fines or litigation fees. Therefore, the Department of Justice applied for his bankruptcy to the High Court. Additionally, Deputy Commissioner of Police Jemmy Nai announced at a press conference on February 6 that former member of the Hong Kong People's Assembly Joshua Wong was officially wanted by the Hong Kong police force. Joshua Wong was arrested by the Hong Kong police in 2020 on suspicion of colluding with foreign forces to endanger national security. Joshua Wong was released on bail until December 2023 and was allowed to go to Canada for study in July 2023. However, Joshua Wong announced in December 2023 that he had absconded from bail, decided not to return to Hong Kong, and fled to Canada.